José Rizal, in full, José Protasio Rizal Mercado y Alonso Realonda, born in June 19, 1861 at Calamba, Laguna, Philippines. Died in December 30, 1896 in Manila. A patriot, physician, a man of letters who has an inspiration to the Philippine nationalist movement, and also a founder of Liga Filipina, a notable works, The Reign of Greed, The Social Cancer. The son of the prosperous landowner, Rizal was educated in Manila and at the University of Madrid. A brilliant medical student, he soon committed himself to the reform of Spanish rule in his home country. Though he never advocated Philippine independence, most of his writing was done in Europe, where he resided between 1882 and 1892. Rizal returned to the Philippines in 1892. He founded a non-violent reform society, the Liga Filipina in Manila, and was deported to the Dapitan in northwest Mindanao. He remained in exile for the next 4 years. In 1896, the Katipunan, a Filipino nationalist secret society, revolted against Spain. Although he had no connection with that organization and he had no part in the insurrection, Rizal was arrested and tried for sedition by the military, found guilty. He was publicly executed by a firing squad in Manila. His martyrdom convinced Filipinos that there was no alternative to independence from Spain. On the eve of the execution, while confined in Fort Santiago, Rizal wrote Ultimo Adios, or The Last Farewell, a masterpiece of 19th century Spanish verse. Everyone knows how José Rizal traveled in Europe, helped mold his ideas for reform in his homeland, but it was unlikely friendship with an European, an academic who has so engrossed about Philippines that cemented this concept in Rizal's mind. José Rizal was born in one of Spain's last colonies plagued by frequent rebellions and insurrections. At the same time, the Philippines was faced with an unsure future, no thanks to the prevailing backwards and oppressive rule of the religious orders and the civil government entangled in the battle between liberalism and conservatism. In 1872, a bloody mutiny in Cavite took place which led to the eventual execution of 3 secular Filipino priests. This according to Patricio Abilanes and Doña Amoroso's book State and Societies in the Philippines, rocked the entire country and sent shivers down the liberal Spain's. All seems bleak for Spain's far-off tropical colony, but that mestizo baby's birth would help change the course of the country. In the middle of the night in 1861, a Tisoy baby boy was born to Doña Chodora Alonso and Don Francisco Mercado in Calamba, Laguna. No one thought that baby would grow up to be a well-traveled doctor, artist, writer, historian, poet, master fencer, and eventually a national hero. When the young José Rizal entered Ateneo Municipal in the Ciudad Morada, Intramuros, it was obvious he was to have his first interaction with the Europe and her sons run by Spanish Jesuits. Ateneo offered subjects that let gifted Spaniards, and Filipinos explored the world of Virgil and Cicero, learned the language and the stories of Caesar and Don Quixote and Oedipus, and discovered other subjects that were European in taste and orientation. To say that Rizal did not learn Spanish, Latin, French, and Greek in Europe is true. He was still a young man here in the Philippines when he started reading and writing, speaking in this European language. To his great benefit, the access to this language was also a means for the young Rizal to be exposed to Ateneo's immense wealth of books and lessons. But Rizal's early interaction with Europeans was not only through Spain's books and institutions, it was also through the continent's sons, his Jesuit's father and brother, with the erudition, guidance, and paternal care. This Jesus showed young Jose, the future propagandist of the Philippines, saw in this man the love and concern of the mother Spain he had always hoped for. These priests were for him shining beacons of what Europe then could best offer in intelligence and rational but God-centered outlook in life. For this meant to come to the Philippines and teach young boys like him mathematics, rhetoric, history, geography, Latin, Spanish, French, Greek, and more. An indelible mark was impressed upon the young Jose. Europe was a heaven, a source of great ideas, and more importantly, a place for enlightened and compassionate men. But Jose was still in the Philippines, and his larger reality was different. Although his family already belonged to the prince, principal class, Rizal and his loved ones were subjects to the humiliation and disposition that Filipinos then had to endure, as Leon Maria Guerrero relayed in his book, The First Filipino History, Tomes, and Rizal Biographies, would mention how the young Rizal witnessed his own mother get, get a taste of the weakness of the colonial system, being wrongly accused and incarcerated for around 2 years, as recorded in Abinales and Amoroso's book, State of Society, in the late 1800s. Religious corporations led by peninsular priests were also habitually raising the rent of their huge haciendas, making the inquilios as well as the kasama feel the economy brunt. Fortunately, his eventual stay in Europe for future study opened and broadened his mind, seeing European countries as examples his own country should try to emulate. It is not an exaggeration to say that Rizal might have felt jealous of the Europeans who were able to freely discover the wonders of science and mention words such as reason and progress without being flogged by the local parish priest as he set foot in the Greek continent. He indulged in some academic and non-so-academic pursuits. A young man so thirsty of knowledge, he joined the Circulo Hispano-Filipino, wrote in masterpiece Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo, and forged long-lasting friendship with some European men and women. While there he was elected member of the Geographic Society as well as the Anthropological Society and other scholarly groups. European expanded his world view.
The great European countries of Spain, France, Germany, England, Belgium, and Italy have left indelible marks in Rizal's life. To simply paint a picture of his frolicking through the continent and burning his family money is misleading and irresponsible. As he went from one country to another, he had a purpose for each transfer. For one having very little money, he was looking for the cheapest painting press which could publish his controversial knowledge. Secondly, traveling through Europe enabled him to learn new useful language, and one of these is German. His facility in the language enabled him to read more scholarly materials and pursue new relationships. Germany also left a deep depression in him, and he would always recount examples of German loyalty and honesty. Among Rizal, among Rizal's new acquaintances in Europe, a sect stand out as his favorite, Ferdinand Blumentritt, a schoolmaster from among Rizal's new acquaintances in Europe, a sect stands out as his favorite, Ferdinand Blumentritt, a schoolmaster from Leitmeritz. Among Rizal's new acquaintances in Europe, a sect stands out of his favorite, Ferdinand Blumentritt, a schoolmaster from Leitmeritz. Blumentritt's somewhat peculiar, however. Among Rizal's new acquaintances in Europe, a sect stands out as his favorite, Ferdinand Blumentritt, a schoolmaster from Leitmeritz. Blumentritt's somewhat peculiar interest for the Philippines caught the attention of Rizal because it brought him hope and encouragement. Indeed, beyond the Iberian Peninsula, there were other Europeans, other people out there who knew something about the Philippines. It so impressed Rizal that among Rizal's new acquaintances in Europe, a sect stand up as his favorite, Ferdinand Blumentritt, a schoolmaster The late retreats, Blumentritt, somewhat peculiar interest of the Philippines caught the attention of Rizal because it brought him hope and encouragement. Indeed, beyond the Iberian Peninsula, there were other Europeans, other people out there who knew something about the Philippines. It so impressed Rizal that a sect was very interested and adept in Philippine history. The, emo- the emotion and sensitive Rizal was utterly touched the moment he heard in Heidelberg that a Professor Blumentritt was studying Tagalog and had already published some works on the language. Rizal had every reason to find in this man an advocate, impudent and friend. From exchanging letters, the relationship grew into a lasting friendship and even to some extent brotherly love. Blumentritt was Rizal's spiritual elder, brother and mentor, a companion through the hard and expensive life in Europe. Rizal would also extend a helping hand to Blumentritt by translating manuscript and at the same time opening Blumentritt's eyes to a Philippines beyond and ethnographics, maps, and dialects. It it was in this friendship that Europe found a place in Jose's hearts. Their friendship was proof that being one best can lead the other to love and appreciate the older home from Rizal. Blumentritt was what Europe best offered him. After his first and last meeting with Blumentritt, Rizal was set to leave Europe and for Calamba. His stay in that continent was no bed of roses. The cost of living was high and his own family, being in turmoil over land disputes, had difficulty sending him money. Rizal was not only in Europe to write letters to foreign friends and attend parties. He was there to study and eventually campaign for reforms. His stay exposed him to different cultures and practice, good and bad, and through this he was also able to formulate ideas as to what reforms are needed in his home country, among them having a free press. Rizal and his convictions were a product of his European experience. Readers of history should see that along with Rizal's return to the Philippines was the arrival of his European-inspired truths. From her shores, the first Filipino will return to his country renewed with vigor, strengthened by the French ideas of liberté, fraternite, and eligate hopeful that his sojourn in Europe made him a better Filipino, influenced by the French Revolution's ideas, impressed by German integrity. Rizal was so hopeful that one day the Philippines would be considered one of Spain's provinces. Europe was in his heart, but his heart was still for the Philippines.